round 2 of the Innistrad Championship. We're still playing Historic. I'm still on green-white Heliod. And now I'm getting paired against Junt Food, which is okay. Played a mirror just now, going into Junt Food. I'm against Piotr, Victor Zak. Definitely not pronouncing that right, but I do recognize the name from the SCG tour, I think. So I know that he is no slouch, and yeah, such is definitely the case when you're playing these events. And he's on Junt Food, which is a deck that I did playtest a bit against. I was actually considering to play Junt Food in the tournament, but decided not to because I kept losing to Heliod. I don't think the matchup is like great for Heliod or anything. I do think I am slightly favored, which is kind of surprising, right? Because the Junt deck has a lot of ways to break. Like usually you would think that the Junt Food deck is very good against creature decks, especially since they got Mayhem Devil to break up your puny Soul Wardens and so on. There's a lot of interaction, especially post-board. This particular list plays 4 Falsies main deck, which is notable because that's usually a card I do like to bring in the matchup, at least in some numbers, to take care of stuff like Heliod and Collect the Company. Especially, the biggest reason why the Heliod deck is favored in this matchup is that Junt can't actually remove Heliod himself. And so that gives you a lot of leeway in the long game, and as long as you make sure to pace your development, that is, like, you don't just run out all your Soul Sisters and have them pinged off by Devil, but you try and like hold them in your hand. You're not supposed to just play a card just because you have mana and have nothing else to do. That's a very important piece of how you play the Heliod deck, especially against interaction. But the fact that I have stuff like a Johnny's Welcome in my deck, which they can't kill, at least in game 1, and that they can't kill Heliod, means that it's actually fairly easy for me to set up spots where they need to respect the combo, and they only have 2 Fatal Push, and they need to leave up mana and like a way to enable it to kill my to kill my Oak. And I have stuff like Skyclave Apparition to get rid of the Devil. So I do have ways to make sure that I can beat their interaction, especially in games 2 and 3 once I have all my apparitions. But yeah, I do think I would rather see the green-black version of this deck than the Junt version here, because Mayhem Devil, again, is somewhat of an issue, and this deck is faster with stuff like Corvold. The issue is that I can't just play a super slow game, because they'll just play a Corvold, and then I'm really forced to like act, otherwise I'll die in 1 or 2 turns, and they'll obviously draw a lot of resources. But yeah, this is basically the list. It's very notable that they only have 2 Fatal Push. Have to keep that in mind. And post-board, they have 3 Noxious Grasp, which is extremely annoying for me as a green-white deck. I do not want to see that. And they definitely like came prepared for specifically cards like Yasharn out of the Humans deck and the Heliod deck. They're also running Legion's End, which I assume is a bit of a hedge against Auras, where it's at its best. I think that was actually also another reason that I came up with for why they would want to run Legion's End right now. But it's also very decent in these matchups. Like, for instance, Voice of the Blessed is, like, once you get into Destructible, it can be really hard for these decks to deal with. But Legion's End just deals with it very cleanly. So that is also something to note for the post-board games. And they're obviously going to go up to 4 push as well. So post-board, this deck is going to go very, very reactive. I'm expecting him to cut all his squirrels and cut some of the card advantage engines. And like board in a bunch of removal spells. And that's basically how we can get him, is hoping that he boards too low on card advantage so that I can kind of outgrind him by pacing my plays and not overextending into a Devil and so on. But then obviously Corvold can be a big issue, so yeah. That is the matchup, that is the game plan. Let's see how it plays out here. So once again, I have a beautiful opening hand here of Soul Warden into Trellisera. I've been pretty good at drawing these hands. So that is a clear keep. Now I do get Fault Seized here, which is a bit annoying. That's probably gonna take away my Trellisera, and I drew a Plains. So now I'm actually, it looks like I'm gonna flood a little bit, especially having cards like Scurry Oak and kind of Skyclave Apparition too, for that matter, which don't really help enable my own game plan very well. Like Scurry Oak is just a really bad card when I don't have the Heliod combo. which is why I sometimes bought it out against interactive decks. So yeah, here I just have no choice but to pass. I kind of wish now that I didn't play my Soul Warden on turn 1 if I knew that my Trilocera was gonna get full teased, because it's way better to like not get it pinged off from Mayhem Devil. But there's a very interesting interaction here where my opponent knows I have Skyclave Apparition here. So I'm thinking here if I can like afford to play my Apparition here and take care of the squirrel, but my opponent knows I have it. So if they had a Mayhem Devil in hand, they're not gonna play it. They're gonna play Roundel Squirrel even if it's like a very mana inefficient line, just because like they don't want me to Apparition their Devil or their Oven or whatever it is they have, their Trail of Crumbs. Right, so they're gonna try and bait me into taking the squirrel, and I'm not gonna fall for that bait. I have a second option too. I can choose like whether I want to play the Scurry Oak or not. Because actually there is a reason to just hold it back and just like try and hold all your combo pieces. But I think at this point, it's probably better off to play it out. They also don't have that much interaction. And even if I lose it, it's not that big of a deal. It might act as a lightning rod, right? Because if they go like, for instance, like binding or something to kill my Scurry Oak, that means my Soul Warden survives, which could be good if I draw, let's say, another Trilocera, or like draw a company or something and hit some of those pieces. So I don't value the Scurry Oak particularly highly, but my opponent might. So it's actually kind of neat for me to just play it out here. But the fact that I drew another Plains here, I now have 6 lands and 3 spells in total to work with. Like it's, and like one of those spells is like basically a vanilla 1/2. It's gonna be pretty hard to make something happen. You still have the castle, but against stuff like Corvold, it's not really gonna be the way I win. That's something you can do against Green Blackfoot, but not really against Jund. So, opponent here is thinking a bit, possibly planning out what they want to extend or not, how to do it. So now they play out a Fabled Passage, which makes me think that maybe they don't have the Devil, because that would be a very good line to just go like Devil, kill my Soul Warden. But maybe again, they're still trying to like protect it from my Skyclave Apparition. So they do go Binding, kill my Scurry Oak. I think I'm fairly happy with this. And now I draw a Lunarch Veteran. Alright, so I play out the castle as that's the land they know. And yeah, now again I can play my Apparition, but not really sure that I still want to just kill a squirrel here. It seems like kind of a low, kind of a low value play, especially if they are sandbagging one of their value cards. So another thing you can do here is play out a Veteran, but if they do have a Devil in hand, I don't want them to be able to like play Devil Oven or something and like kill 2 of my Soul Wardens. So essentially, I think I'm gonna have to sandbag my Lunarch Veteran. I think I can't play my Apparition here. So that means I can't play anything, right? Again, even though you have a play to make, you are not forced to make it. And it's a lot of like the skill that comes with playing this deck particularly. Because a lot of your lines are pretty scripted, right? You play your lifelink guys, then you play your payers for lifelink, and then like that's how it works. When you have a combo you can work towards, you see what you hit off company. It's like, a lot of it is pretty straightforward. But there are some hard games, which are these, when you're playing against interaction, and you actually do have a choice. Because you don't just have to play out your things. And you can, especially since your things are like 1 mana, it's very easy for you to just keep them in hand and deploy them at the right moment, where it might be very annoying for your opponent to leave up the mana they need to leave up. There's another thing here, is that if I just pass now, it's gonna look a lot like I have Collect a Company. And if I have a company here, the opponent can't really afford to play reactively if they're sandbagging something like a Mayhem Devil. They kind of have to just play it out now into my Apparition, because otherwise they might lose to whatever I hit off company. So I put them under some fake pressure here by just passing. You might think that the fact that I'm just thinking so much and not just playing the company means that it's a bluff. But in reality, it's actually a reasonable decision for me to think about whether or not I want to main phase the company or not. So I don't even think that gives it away. So yeah, I'm mulling over my options here, seeing if I should play the Lunarch Veteran or not, and taking quite a long time to figure this out. But in the end, I do come to the conclusion that I'm just supposed to put a stop on their main phase, so that when the binding triggers, I'll get priority and it'll look like I have the company. Because if you don't put a stop here, Arena will just tell your opponent that you don't have it, and that can be that can be very dangerous. I don't know why I'm checking out the binding, but yeah, basically I decide that I can't afford to just Skyclave the squirrel, or if I do that, like maybe I can do it next turn anyway, if they're truly just like out of stuff to do. Like for instance, if you just put Gigantha in hand here, like maybe I'll just hit the squirrel. But they do play an oven, so that's a nice target. Again, make sure to have the pause. And here's the Mayhem Devil. So the fact that they play oven and devil, right, meant that they have at least one of these cards in hand last turn and didn't play them into my apparition. But now with the Skyclave bluff, I actually baited out the devil so that I can hit it with apparition, even though they know I have it. So that actually worked out pretty well. Also note that like because I didn't play out my veteran, I'm not losing both my Soul Warden effects here. So that's very nice. And yeah, as I mentioned before, I would have loved to also not lose my Soul Warden here. I would have loved to just like keep it in hand and play it alongside a card that gave me life. But since I had a Trellicera in my opening hand, I was always just gonna play the Warden. Anyway, I'm not playing my Fake Company because I don't have it. I draw another land, so like this draw is looking really mediocre here. And we're gonna need like to draw a company to get out of this and to hit well with it too. But at least I get to exile the devil here. And just hope that my opponent does not follow up with another devil or Corvold or even like a Trail of Crumbs. There are a lot of things that could be pretty dangerous here. Even an oven means that I'm under a lot of pressure from this Ravenous Squirrel. So the Jund deck, however, does have a tendency to flood. So that's kind of neat. And also, if I play out my Lunak Veteran here, they still have like 3 Thoughtseize they can draw, which are going to be blanks. Right, so normally I would hold this Veteran in hand so that in case they draw another devil, I might be able to like draw another apparition to kill it or something, but I don't have many more apparitions in my deck. I only have 1 more, and since they also have Thoughtseize in their deck, holding cards in your hand has less value because you also like maybe you play around 1 card in the form of like some of their removal spells, but you play into their discard spells. So in this case, since some of my out is that they just have like a very low value draw, just like I'm having. I'm hoping that you draw cards like Thoughtseize and lands here. So I'm gonna like, basically, I'm gonna make sure that there's some of their cards in the deck that are gonna be bad draws so that I can play towards that out. I'm gonna play with my Lunar Veteran here. So hoping and praying to not see a Corvold here. And this tapping off lands in this way makes me not very very happy. Since they also had the cat oven going, right? Like this, it would be kind of there it is. Okay, so yeah, this this means that I can't just like fool around for too much longer here. I have to do something powerful and fast because they're drawing a lot of cards now. Like just 3 cards when Corvold enters the battlefield, and Corvold is gonna kill me in 2 turns, especially alongside the squirrel too, which is gonna hit for quite a bit. So. Oh, it's interesting that they choose to sacrifice a land there. I thought they would just bring back the cat and sacrifice it again. Because usually it's not very good to hit the lands. Anyway, we draw a beautiful Ajani's Welcome. Doesn't really do anything, but at least because I played on my Lunar Veteran, I have the mana now to play out the Welcome and still activate my castle. So I can gain a whole 2 life here. The opponent might still be able to kill me. I think they might have even been able to kill me if they didn't sack the land. Not sure. But anyway, here's the second squirrel. And yeah, this is gonna hit very hard now. So Trail of Crumbs 2, just get this thing rolling. And yeah, this one, I'm just watching like my opponent do his thing. I need to draw specifically like a Collector Company and to have my opponent not have the Fatal Push here. They only have 2 in their deck. So it's actually like not unthinkable that I can win this game from this point. Even if they can kill a Lunak Veteran, I still have the Ajani's Welcome in play to help me out there. So yeah, the attack here. And I'm actually like really close to dying, right? Like if they bring back the squirrel, sacrifice it to Corvold, then bring it back again, I would be at 12 life and the Corvold would be at 13. Luckily, I could activate Castle and gain 2 life, but actually they could activate the squirrel, sacrificing Oven or whatever, cat, whatever they need. So yeah, I'm actually dead on board here. Because that's just the power of Corval. Like, when you have the cat oven going with Corval, usually it might just kill you in one swing. But instead, the opponent goes for the value with Trail of Crumbs. And yeah, I mean, you can't really blame him, but it does give me an opportunity to top deck here. So if I top deck the company, I can win the game from this point, as long as there's not a fatal push in hand. So we make a jump blocker for the squirrel. Go to not very much life, but enough to survive. And it is worth noting in this matchup, if you get the combo off, like, you will win the game. They cannot beat you if you're at that high life total and have that many squirrels, because they don't have a sweeper type effect in their deck. And I draw Soul Warden. Okay. Alright. Well, no comeback for me here. So we are gonna sideboard. And I'm bringing in the Declaration Stone to kill the Corvold and the Mayhem Devils. Skyclave Apparitions, also to kill the Devil, and obviously a Sharn. And I'm taking out the Ranger Captain package, which is all the Ranger Captains and the Selfless Savior. Selfless Savior is like not great against the Mayhem Devil. And it's also a lot worse when you're boarding out your Ranger Captains, which are basically like the worst card you have access to. So this looks pretty good. I boarded out one Soul Warden. The reasoning is that I wanted to go lower on one toughness things against Mayhem Devil. And because they have Legion's End, like normally I would cut a Lunak Veteran, but because they have Legion's End, I'd rather split them so that I don't get a 2-for-1. However, I actually don't think, when you're boarding out the Ranger Captains, I don't think you can afford to board out any of your 1-drops. That's something I learned during the tournament. So sometimes I had been like shaving on Soul Wardens, but I don't think I can go lower than 10. I think that is the absolute minimum. And the fact that they have Mayhem Devil to ping them is actually an argument for having more Soul Wardens, not fewer. Because if they're easy to kill, that means you need to just draw another one if they kill the first one. Because it's really hard to win the game when you don't have any of these effects in play. That's also why Giant's Welcome is so good, and why you could possibly argue for having a 4th one in the sideboard for any interactive matchup like this. So anyway, I think what I am supposed to cut here is possibly a Scurry Oak, or possibly a Voice of the Blast. Actually, I think specifically against Legions, and I think I would cut a Voice of the Blast. Maybe a Trilacera, but yeah, something, cut one of these 4s instead, because I don't really think you can afford to cut one of the 1-drops. And then on the draw I would cut a land, and leave in all my creatures. But I do think you need the Declaration Stone because of Corvold, which, I think I come to the conclusion that I'm underplay, so I don't need as many interaction spells. And that might be true, but then I should cut an Apparition and leave in the Declaration Stone. Yeah, I do figure out that, yeah, I do actually want all the Soul Wardens here, and end up cutting the Declaration. I think that's wrong. I think I should leave the Declaration in here. But we'll see if it comes to haunt me. There's sometimes when you're on a play too where they have to tap out for Corvold on turn 5, and then you can just kill them by going off. Oh, another thing about the Legion's End is actually that acts as a sweeper effect, because they can kill all my squirrels with it. So if they have a cat oven to jump block my Scurry Oak, they can actually survive the combo post board. But if I have like 2 life gain effects, I can just build up other things. Or if I have like a Voice of the Blast going, that'll get, super large. So realistically, it's still gonna be really hard for them to beat the combo, even though they can't beat me if I'm at like 97 life. So we all once again have the 1-drop into Trilacera start. Gotta love it. 1 into 2 is what you want with this deck. Let's see if they have a Thoughtseize this time to deal with my shenanigans. They have a Witch's Oven. Okay. Well, that means I get to play Trilacera, and I really want to scry towards a land here, so there we go. And I drew a Heliod, so this is just like lining up perfectly, exactly how I wanted it to. And here again, I had the option between playing Voice and Trilacera, and I decided to go with Trilacera because I'm trying to scry for something. So keep that in mind. Sometimes if you already have what you need and you don't know what you're scrying towards, that's when you play Voice. Otherwise you play Trilacera if you want something specific to scry towards. So I'm playing out Skyclave here, and I'm not actually sure if it's right, because this leaves me a little bit vulnerable to Mayhem Devil, but not by much. Because they would have to, like, they get to kill my veteran, but this way they don't have the cat oven going with the Mayhem Devil. I do also have a Sharn in hand, which shuts off the oven anyway, but it also shuts off Mayhem Devil, so that's kind of a moot point. I think it would be reasonable here to just play out a Heliod. and that this is actually a mistake that's a bit too hasty. Basically, I have to think about the ways you're losing. One argument could be that if they had the devil, there's a chance they would have just played that turn too instead of playing out these things. Oh wait, they actually couldn't because they just played Goose this turn, right? But yeah, anyway, I think that was a bit too greedy, but anyway, I'm scrying a land to the top so I can play my Yasharn, and hopefully I can manage to attack them from enough angles that they die here. They also like only have 2 cards in hand. I think they mulligan quite a bit this game, so they're definitely not a guarantee to have a devil here. And if they do, like they can just kill a veteran. It's not even that bad, but it is my way to gain life. It's just like then I'll play a Yasharn. So now it seems like they're thinking about casting a spell and then deciding against it. So I'm thinking like maybe that's a Noxious Grasp, and I should really think about that here. So if I just slam my Yasharn, and then they're gonna know that they can Noxious Grasp that. So I think I want to hold my Yasharn for a turn, make them play their Noxious Grasp on something else, because I think no matter what else they kill, it's not as important as killing Yasharn. And I can. I think the best line here is to play out Heliod. It is the most mana efficient of my other options. And also, because I already have 4 Devotion in play, Heliod will trigger my Lunarch Veteran. So Heliod really forces them to spend their card. So that I don't get that extra scry. And extra counters and triggers and so on. I do decide to attack first though, because ideally, I would play Yasharn now, and then next turn Heliod plus Voice of the Blessed. So if they have an interaction spell here, they might just like want to cast it now on Trelasera. So even though I'm technically giving up damage by not playing Heliod first, that's okay. Like I can give up 1 point of damage, basically like the counter that could go on the apparition, for the upside of them spending their Noxious Grasp, so that opens me up to play the card I really want to play this turn. So anyway, I make my veteran bigger so that it survives a Mayhem Devil hit. And opponent just makes a food, so they do not have Noxious Grasp here. And instead they have Legion's End. Okay, fair enough. That's the thing they're just planning to hold for a turn for whatever reason. They're just passing again. 1 card in hand, so this is not looking very good for them. I can play a Yasharn here. Even if they have an answer, like they're still taking a bunch of damage this turn. Get to put a counter again on something. Now that my veteran is out of Mayhem Devil range, I'm just deciding to pump my Apparition. That also protects the Devotion for Heliod a little bit. So yeah, now I'm playing out this one, getting another life. I'm gonna, okay, I don't know. You could put that on veteran. You could put that on the other veteran that's already large, just to push more damage. But yeah, essentially, like, even if they have like a Binding of the Old Gods here, they're still dead on board. So, or like if they have a devil, they can't really do enough to come back. So, right, that is pretty. Obviously, like, they did not get very lucky that game. They did not have much going on. I'm deciding to board into Declaration, where I think I'm supposed to cut a castle instead of the Soul Warden, even though I have more 4-drops in my deck. But, and yeah, that is how I'm gonna submit the deck. So I have this opening hand, which has not very much gas. I do have the Skyclave Apparition, which is pretty important in the matchup to kill stuff like Devil or Trailer Crumbs. But honestly, I think this was a mulligan. I actually end up keeping this hand, but I don't think I should have, looking back at this. The thing is that I just have none of my power cards, and it's really important in these matchups that you have power cards, because like the Soul Warden, especially the Scurry Oak, when you don't have the combo, like they can just easily shred those apart. My opponent has 4 Thoughtseizes, which I guess at times is an argument to keep 7 cards in your hand, but not when the 7 cards are kind of bad and you have 4 lands. You'd rather keep like a landlight hand with lots of spells, so that if they Thoughtseize multiple spells out of your hand, you still have more. And ultimately, I think I'm supposed to mulligan this hand. It's also like if I draw just a single land with this hand, it's just gonna be very bad. The power level is so low here. I do decide to keep it. There's definitely arguments to do that, right? Because I have so many pieces I need to go on, but like when I say my power cards, I mean Voice of the Blessed, Trelasera, Heliod, Collector Company, and Yasharn post-board even. So I actually have a lot of things, like 18 cards, that are gonna just like be payoffs and the things that make my deck do something. Because right now, this hand just does absolutely nothing, except for remove 1 threat. Now that I drew planes, like it's just catastrophic. So here you see me not play out the Soul Warden. Because again, I want to play it when I think I can get an advantage from it. Like play it alongside a Trellisera, so that I immediately get that scry. And then if they kill my Soul Warden, then I already got some value out of it. And it's not as vulnerable to Mayhem Devil. They thought is my Skyclave. I draw another one. Kind of perfect. Just thought I lined it up. So now it's a different interaction than it was in game 1. Where game 1, I knew that they were gonna try and sandbag. But now, they don't know that I have the Skyclave. So they're actually incentivized to play out the Mayhem Devil if they have it. And the fact that they didn't play Devil this turn makes it more likely they don't have it at all. Not that I can play out Skyclave right now anyway, because, you know, they're just gonna sacrifice the cat. So I'm just gonna like, play out a Measy Scurry Oak. I drew another land here, and you can really see like the downside of keeping a hand like this. Just drawing like a pretty good spell and 2 lands, and the hand is just awful. And they do have a devil here, so they were just trying to set it up with Cauldron Familiar, hoping that I'll play out the Soul Warden. But yeah, well, they're gonna... I wasn't about to concede. I was just setting it so that it doesn't auto-order triggered abilities. The thing I realized with Skyclave on the stack is that if I don't switch the order of these two, the opponent would be able to sacrifice Devil with Tower and then kill my Squirrel. So just like small itches here, but usually with this deck, I like to play with auto-order triggered abilities. They do have a Fatal Push anyway to kill my Scurry Oak, so it doesn't actually matter. But yeah, I guess that's nice that it baited out a Fatal Push at least. That's something that's good about Scurry Oak too in these matchups, is that even though it's really bad, it's sometimes just like a Lightning Rod for removal spells. So, but yeah, since I have not much going on here, I really need the opponent to also not have much. But yeah, they have the Cobalt again, and I'm gonna have to get really lucky here too. Okay. So we drew a company here. That is the way we can get out of this. We need to hit exactly Heliod and Scurry Oak. So we play out a Soul Warden here to just like go for the maximized chance of getting lucky here. And even if we don't get exactly that, maybe we can get there, but really hoping for Scurry Oak, Heliod. Alright, we hit 2 things here, but and we are gonna like get a lot of life and a big Voice of the Blessed. And by big, I mean like 5/5. But yeah, this is like not Trellisera would have been a lot better here, I think, so we could try and scry towards that Declaration Stone. And now the opponent is really gonna start drawing a lot of cards. There's still hope here. Like now we just win if we draw Heliod. And this deck sometimes, when it has Cobalt going, can end up in spots where it just draws a bunch of lands off the Cobalt. And also potentially Thoughtseizes if my opponent still has them. But yeah, definitely like not looking good right now. I think this very much is a now we do a stupid Giant's Welcome. And you can see, by the way, the reason why we're not playing 4 Welcomes. Because it's just not, it's a lot worse of a top deck later than a Lunarch Veteran is. Because it doesn't trigger my Soul Warden this turn. So I won't be able to put counters on my things. It especially matters if you have a Trellisera going, where you really need to use that to like improve each of your draw steps. And the fact that like if you're just taking 1 turn off where you're not gaining life, means you also don't get to scry that turn. It's actually like a pretty big deal. But yeah, this is I get to attack for a lot, I get to play my Giant's Welcome and just pass the turn. Hopefully my opponent like just put Gigantha in hand last turn. They clearly don't have much, so I'm just hoping for like the fact that it'll just flood with Cobalt, draw a bunch of Thoughtseizes and lands, and not really much else. Maybe some Cauldron Familiars, I can beat more copies of those. But and then maybe I can like draw something that grows my voice big enough. And if they play Gigantha here, right, then you know it's gonna go to a 7/7, and then I draw a creature, it's gonna be a 9/9. So that's something that could be an out, right? And I'm also going pretty wide alongside that, so even if they don't play Gigantha, I actually can still attack through. So if they're put in a spot where they can't really afford to attack with Cobalt, that could be very good for me. They do have some draws here first. They can sacrifice the cat to the tower here, and they are going to do exactly that. So if they hit something good there, then I might be in trouble. They do hit a Mayhem Devil, so that's not good. That means that my Soul Warden is dead. At least I does get to grow my voice first. So I have a nice 7/7, and still, like, I'm gonna be dead to the Cobalt next turn. It's not really realistic that I can grow the voice large enough, but maybe if they break down removal spells, I actually do have lethal here, right? So that's just my hope now, that they completely break. It's not that likely, because it's possible they wouldn't attack with Corvold if they were just dead on board, right? So I'm thinking that they must have something. But you can never know. So I draw a creature here, and yeah, I'm just gonna have to go for it. I was actually thinking that maybe if I drew a Heliod, it would be very good. Because then, like, they would put him in an awkward spot, right? Because they can't both kill the Voice and the Scurry Oak. But it actually wouldn't even matter, because if I have a Heliod here, they could just kill the Voice, and the Heliod wouldn't trigger anything, because it wouldn't come into play as a creature. And I couldn't give lifelink to anything, because of the Mayhem Devil blocking Skyclave Apparition and sacrificing to kill the Squirrel. I can't attack with Scurry Oak, because they could just eat it with Devil. So I would have nothing to start my combo, and I could just play Heliod and die if they have like a Noxious Grasp or Fatal Push here to kill my. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to have it automatically order the triggered abilities, and I'm just gonna go for it here. Do they have nothing? I'm ready with the good games. They do have a Noxious Grasp. Yeah, it was pretty unlikely that they didn't have anything, but I have to go for the win there, and if they have it, I die anyway. So that was a tough loss there against Jund. I think a lot of it was just like my own fault by keeping that hand. In retrospect, obviously, like, it's not like, you know, if I mulligan I win the game. It's just I improve my chances by mulliganing, essentially. So that's worth noting. And yeah, I can also see like the argument for boarding out a land here. I mean, obviously I didn't draw the castle anyway, so that would not have changed anything. But like you just don't really want these things to happen. Like, it also happened in game 1 where my draw just looked like very anemic and I didn't have many payoffs. So basically, in these matches, they have a lot of removal spells, and you need like the cards that matter to be, you know, to have a lot of those. So you kind of overwhelm the removal spells. That's what happened in game 1. They had one removal spell, but I had Trilacera, Heliod, and Yasharn, so they couldn't deal with everything, and they died as a result of that. But anyway, we're taking a loss here, so now we are 1-1 in the tournament, and that's okay though. As I said, like, I think this matchup is like slightly favored for Heliod. I would rather meet the green-black version than the Jund version, but, you know, I'm not unhappy to lose to this matchup. It's fine. What I really hope to see is to meet some human players. That's kind of the reason why I chose to play Heliod, is that it has a really good matchup against humans and any other creature deck. So, like, it's especially huge when you're playing a big tournament like this, that you just want to, like, have some matchups that are just, like, buys. Not essentially a buy, but, like, you know, easier matchups, because these tournaments are very tough. So, like, having as many, like, easy rounds as you can get is like a huge boon for your tournament performance and like your mental stamina and so on. So, crossing my fingers to meet some humans, hoping to dodge the control decks. Because while Heliod does have a very good matchup against the humans deck, it also has an equally poor matchup against control. Control is like a lot less of the metagame than humans is in this tournament, but I'll probably expect to meet at least like each deck once. And if I get lucky, I meet humans twice and no control. That's kind of like the ideal, right? That you get lucky in that way, but we'll see if that actually plays out. Anyhow, tune in for round number 3 coming up.